She is on a mission to find a rich husband. You had me there because same. Hi friends, it's me again. Happy holidays. I hope you've all had a good December. I know Christmas is over, okay? But I never have a good Christmas. It's my least favorite holiday. And I haven't seen y'all in a minute. So we're gonna get a little festive. Okay, we're gonna go through the books I read this month. It was a pretty decent month. Not my favorite, but I did find a lot of my favorite books. Let's just hop right into it because I am so excited. So the first book I read this month was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I got an ARC, which I cried. As I've said a million times, People We Meet on Vacation is my favorite book of all time. Emily Henry is the most amazing author ever. I don't know how she does it, but every book she writes, it hits home for me, and I'm always able to relate to at least one of her characters. So she's amazing. She's insane. It was so good. So good. Book Lovers follows the story of Nora and Charlie. Nora is a literary agent at a publishing company, and Charlie is an editor. So they end up interacting because one of Nora's authors is publishing a book, and they have to like talk about all the logistics of that and stuff. And you can see that Charlie is this kind of like sarcastic, grumpy kind of person, and Nora is also the same, and they just do not get along at all. Like they kind of butt heads a lot. Throughout the rest of the book, Nora's little sister ends up wanting to go to a town that was mentioned in the book that is published by one of Nora's authors. So they decide to go for like a sister getaway, and of course Charlie ends up being from that specific town. You follow them getting to know each other more in this small town, and also realizing that they are not different at all. They are literally the same. And that's what I love so much about this book, because it wasn't enemies to lovers. It was like an equals attract kind of trope. So it starts off where you think, oh, they hate each other, but really they are exactly the same person. And it was so good. The writing, impeccable. The banter, I can't even put into words how much I love the banter and the wittiness in this book. It was so, it was amazing. It was amazing. So that's all I can really say about Book Lovers. I gave it a 5-star. We're not surprised. I'm really biased when it comes to Emily Henry. Everything she writes will most likely get a 5-star for me. The book comes out in May. I can't wait for y'all to get your hands on it because it's so good. Next, I picked up There Is No Devil by Queen Sophie Lark. I love her. Y'all know I am obsessed with her. I talked about the first book in this duology in my last wrap-up video. This is still about Cole and Mara, and it takes a different twist. Cole is still a serial killer, and Shaw is still out to get Mara. You do get to see more of Cole and Mara's dynamic, like in their relationship, which I really enjoyed, because in the first book, just because of with all the tension and everything going on, like we really didn't get to see a lot of them together. But in this book, Sophie gave and then some. Like it was so good, so entertaining. The playlist for this book is insane. I personally cannot focus on reading while listening to music. It distracts me. But when it comes to books written by Sophie Lark, I have to, because she has such a brilliant way of pairing a song with a certain scene. There is one scene in here that I cannot stop thinking about because I played the song that goes with it. As a second book, it definitely gave. I really liked how it ended up. You really get to see a lot of growth within Mara and Cole. You get to learn more about their family dynamics. You get to see Cole really wanting to take care of Mara and watch her succeed, and it's just it's the cutest thing ever, even though it's about serial killers. I think I gave this a 4 out of 5, but if you have not picked up this duet, please do it. The first book is There Are No Saints, and the second book is even better. So y'all know I'm on my Sophie Lark kick, so I picked up the third book in the Brutal Birthright series. This is Stolen Heir. This is Miko and Nessa's story. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. As a series focused on the mafia, I think the Beauty and the Beast retelling done in this was perfected. Like she did an amazing job with establishing that. But you have Miko, who is the Polish like mafia leader now, and then Nessa, who is the sister of Callum. Callum's book is the first book in the Brutal Birthright series. Nessa is really soft. She's kind of very sheltered. Like her other sister and Callum have more to do with the mafia business than she does. She's just a college student, a ballerina. So she really has like no stake in the mafia business at all within her family. So Miko is upset with the Gallows because they killed his father. So as revenge, he decides to kidnap Nessa. I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel about a kidnapping story because I haven't really read a lot. Like I'm just now getting into dark romance, like mafia related books. But the way this was done was so good. The pacing was good. Miko and Nessa's like tension and their hatred for each other, so good. You really get to see him soften up a little bit for her, which I thought was so cute, especially because like she's sheltered. She has no experience. She feels like she has no like place in her family. So for them two to come together and him to kind of reassure her that like she's amazing the way she is, like it was just everything. Definitely opposites attract, enemies to lovers kind of vibe. The way he protects her and looks out for her is just, it's so cute. This one is personally up there for me in the series so far. I think I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. After Stolen Heir, school started picking up for me. It was finals week, so I was in the biggest reading slump ever. Like I could not focus on anything besides school, so I think I took like a 2-week break from reading, which sucked. I was very sad, very depressed. So to get me out of my slump, I decided to completely switch gears from mafia and dark romance. So I picked up The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, finally. All I'm gonna say about this book is, 1, it ruined me. 2, it deserves every single ounce of hype that it gets, even though I hate the word hype, but whatever. This deserves awards. I want it turned into a movie. I want an Oscar nomination. I want everything when it comes to this book. This book has been on my shelf since September, and every single month it would be on my TBR, but I never got around to reading it. If you have this book on your bookshelf right now and you have not read it, please go pick it up. It's phenomenal. The story starts with Monique, who works at a magazine company, I think, and one day her boss lets her know that Evelyn Hugo wants Monique to come to her house and interview her. And Monique gets very confused about that because it's the Evelyn Hugo wanting Monique specifically to do a story about her. So Monique ends up accepting the offer. She meets Evelyn and she can see that Evelyn is kind of this really like bitch. So the story kind of flip-flops. So you have Monique interviewing her, and then it switches to the past talking about Evelyn's life, and then it switches to the present where Monique and Evelyn gets kind of like discuss what was talked about and like how that affected Evelyn. This book just felt like you were going through literally 70 years of Evelyn's life with her, and it was so tragic and so heartbreaking. But there are also parts where you just feel warm and fuzzy and you just want to hug these characters so much. And I sobbed. Like, I fucking cried. It was devastating and beautiful, and I think the writing was spectacular. Taylor Jenkins Reid honestly did not miss with this book. I gave it infinity stars. Like, I couldn't even give it a 5. It exceeded all of my expectations. I know I was really late to the game, but now that I'm here, I haven't got off the train. So please trust me and read this damn book because it's life-changing and it's so beautiful. Obviously, after reading Evelyn Hugo, I was completely out of my reading slump and ready to dive back into my mafia madness. So I picked up Savage Lover, which is the 4th book in the Brutal Birthright series, and it follows Nero and Camille. Nero is, whew, he's literally like a modern day James Dean, kinda like this badass. He's very chaotic, very destructive, doesn't really care about a lot. He just has like this bad boy kind of rep. And then you have Camille, who is this hard worker. Like, she works in her father's garage. She's super into cars, which I thought was so hot. One day Nero and Camille end up seeing each other at a party. They used to go to high school together, so they know of each other, but they don't have a history or anything. After Camille leaves this party, her and her brother get in trouble because her brother was trying to sell drugs, and Camille took the fall for it. The cop that pulled her over is kind of a crooked cop. He wants Camille to kind of spy on like the drug dealers or whatever so he can arrest them, and Camille has no choice in the matter because he ends up threatening her brother with something. So you have Camille trying to get close to these drug dealers without getting caught, and then you also have Nero, who is planning a bank robbery, and the same dirty cop is looking at him as well. This book was very action-packed, and it was kind of like a Fast and Furious kind of vibe, which I did enjoy. I give this a 4 out of 5. I just felt like this book focused more on Nero and Camille's separate problems rather than their relationship together. But besides that, it was still very good, really entertaining, and Nero he's hot. He's really, really hot. So obviously I picked up the next book in the Brutal Birthright series, which was Bloody Heart. This is Dante and Simone's book. This one is my favorite one so far. This one is a 5-star. Dante, a man, okay? I don't even know. He just puts all other men to shame. So this follows Dante and Simone. It's a second chance romance. He's very stoic, very grumpy, very serious. And then Simone is a supermodel. She's also black. We love to see it. The first like 30% of the book is focused on the past when Dante and Simone met when she was 18. And then something tragic happened. So it flashes forward 9 years. You can see that Dante really is not interested in any other woman because he has been hung up on Simone forever. Simone ends up flying back to Chicago for something, and Dante and Simone end up running into each other, and the tension is there. It was amazing. It gave me butterflies. So this one's definitely my favorite book from the series so far. I still have 2 more books to get through. After Bloody Heart, I decided to put a pause in the Brutal Birthright series because I don't want it to end. I moved to Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. This was my first Penelope Douglas book. I've read a lot of reviews where it's always either hit or miss with some of Penelope Douglas's books. For this one being my first, I didn't think it was bad. I just could not get over the fact that it took place in high school. So I really struggled with that. But I also did a reading vlog of this, and I gave my review of that on there. So if you would like to check that out, it's the last video I posted. It should be right under this. A short synopsis of this is that Misha and Ryan are pen pals, but something happens and Misha stops writing Ryan. But then Misha ends up going to her school under like a fake alias name or whatever, and he sees that Ryan is really not the girl that he has been writing to for the past like 7 years. So they have like their beef about that, but she doesn't know that he's Misha. It's a really like confusing concept. It was very angsty. I gave it a 3.5 because it took place in high school. It felt very high school, so it just kind of wasn't my favorite book, but I also did not hate it. But now I want to pick up Corrupt by Penelope Douglas because there are characters in here from that series that I'm really interested in, so we'll see. So the next book I picked up was A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn. This book was so fucking good. It was so funny. Like, I was wheezing at one point in time getting through this book. You were following Lottie and Huxley. Lottie just lost her job and she is on a mission to find a rich husband. You had me there because same. Huxley also found himself in a bit of a situation because he's trying to like seal this deal with this other businessman, but the businessman does not want to do business with him because he just couldn't relate to Huxley. Like, he didn't really trust him because Huxley is very like businessy all the time. So in order to make himself seem more approachable and more likable, he lies to the businessman and says, yeah, I have a fiance and she's pregnant. So Huxley is looking for a wife at the same time that Lottie is looking for a husband. They run into each other. They decide to seal the deal. And at first they started off really cute, but then they started butting heads and it was a very enemies to lovers kind of vibe. Reading this was really fun. I understand why Huxley has everyone pregnant on my Goodreads feed right now. After I got done reading this, I initially gave it a 5, but then after thinking about it some more, I switched it to a 4.5 because I felt like sometimes the writing got a little bit repetitive, especially when it came to like their spicy scenes. Like, they would just repeat the same things kind of over and over in their inner monologues, and I'm like, dude, we get it, you're boning, congrats, must be nice. And then I thought the ending felt a little flat for me, but besides that, I still really enjoyed it. It was so funny, so cute, and I highly recommend you get your hands on this because it's one of the books that are blowing up on BookTok right now. After Not So Meet Cute, I picked up Kate Stewart's new Christmas book, A Plight Before Christmas. I'm really not a Christmassy kind of person. I was avoiding festive books, but I adore Kate Stewart, so obviously I had to read this. I read this on Christmas and it was pretty good. But you have Whitney, who is a little frustrated because she didn't get this promotion at her job, so she's coming home for Christmas with her big family, and she sees all of her siblings in marriages and they're having kids, and she just isn't like, she hasn't gotten to that with any guy yet. Like, she's honestly just the cool aunt, you know? So as she's preparing to enjoy Christmas with her family at their cabin, she gets word that her brother is bringing someone, and that person just happens to be Whitney's ex, Eli. Eli comes from a difficult family background, so he's spending Christmas with them for the entire week, and you just get to see like all the feels that they used to have for each other come up. It's a second chance romance, so it was just really sweet, really wholesome. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed this. So after The Plight Before Christmas, I was still in like a Christmassy spirit. I don't know why, so I picked up Dipped in Holly by Dana Isley. This is a short, spicy novella. I believe it was only like 60 or 70 pages, so I read that in one sitting. Holly gets dumped by her boyfriend, and then she ends up running into the bar owner. His name is Nick, and it just went from there. That's the thing about like these short novellas, there really isn't a plot. There's no plot. There's just spice, which is fine, you know? So describing what happened is always kind of difficult for me because I'm like, yeah, they met, and then for the next 50 pages they did interesting things with Christmas lights. So, but it was pretty entertaining. It's on Kindle Unlimited. The spice was pretty okay to me. It wasn't my favorite, so I only gave it like a 3 out of 5, I think. And lastly, the book I read this month was Archer's Voice. I just finished this last night, so I'm still like giddy and warm. This book was so cute, and I definitely understand now why I see this in a lot of people's top 10 books of 2021. But this is one of the cutest books I've ever read. It feels like a warm hug. It has small town vibes, like just an adorable, wholesome and beautiful romance. Bree moves to the small town because she is running away from her past because of this traumatic event that happened to her, so she just wants a fresh start. As she's settling in town, she ends up meeting Archer, who can't speak because of an accident that happened, so his voice box literally does not work, so he's a mute. And everyone around town just treats him very badly and they think he's weird, and they've just never really took the time to understand him because they can't really communicate with him. So he's kind of the loner, and he spent his entire life basically avoiding people. So he's in this big house all by himself. But being new to the town, Bree takes interest in him and wants to understand like why people are treating him so poorly. And because her dad was deaf, she knows sign language, so that's how they communicate. You get to really see Archer open up around her and her trying to get him to do more things, and they form the cutest friendship and then the cutest relationship after that. It's just such a wholesome book, and I love the pacing of this so much. It got really angsty towards the end and I got a little nervous at some parts, but still so good. Definitely one of my favorite books of all time now. You just want to hug these characters and tell them how much you love and appreciate them and that they matter in this world. So I gave this a 5 out of 5. I know I'm most likely gonna end up rereading this a lot because it's just one of those books that just really touch your heart and make you think about things differently. So highly recommend Archer's Voice. I definitely understand why this book means a lot to people. Okay, besties, those are the 11 books I read this month. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, since I didn't really tell you, and I hope that y'all are thriving. I hope you're being safe. Please wear your mask because Omicron is Omicroning, and I don't want y'all to be sick. It's not fun. As usual, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like me, please subscribe, and I will see y'all in the new year.